One of the other important parameters that we look at in ICU charts is the urine output measurement. Urine output is a very sensitive indicator of tissue perfusion. So before we intervene and give some Lasix or some furosemide to increase the urine output, it is very important to know whether there is any physiological reason why the urine output has decreased. So monitoring every hour the urine output is mandatory in all ICUs, and the reason why it is done is just to keep an eye on how the tissue perfusion is. The other things that need to be looked at is the color of the urine, and the quantity, of course, will be measured by the volume method. Now, the color of the urine also gives a lot of suggestions. So when a patient is having hypovolemia because of bleeding or because of low cardiac output, or if they had been dehydrated, not only the urine output comes down, the urine looks concentrated. So it will look more and more deep yellow. And we need to broadly know what are the usual causes of hypovolemia in the post-operative situation. Many patients, if the surgery has been done on bypass, then during the bypass, whilst the patient is being managed on a bypass machine, the perfusionists add mannitol to the perfusion fluid, and also they give diuretics during the bypass period to increase the urine output or to keep the kidneys going. And the residual effect of this remains in the post-operative period as well. So as soon as the patient comes into the intensive care unit, their urine output tends to be on the higher side. Sometimes it can go up to 200, 300 ml an hour. And in someone like a medium built patient who's only 40-50 kilos, this amount of volume, some 400, 500 ml volume, causes a great shift in the hemodynamics, and their BP starts coming down. The urine output following these first 2 hours will suddenly drop down. In that situations, it is very important to identify that the cause of low urine output is because of low volume in the body. The other parameters that will help us in identifying this is to look at the CVP. The CVP, if it is lesser than 5 or 8 centimeters, then that again suggests, initially if it was around 10, and then now the CVP has come down, that suggests hypovolemia. The other parameter is tachycardia. Most patients, when the volume comes down, the heart tends to compensate with increased heart rate. So if the heart rate has increased on the charts, when initially they came it was around 100, now it is 120, even that 20 increase also suggests that the patient could be hypovolemic. Other possibilities, if the patient is bleeding. So again, in a bleeding patient, you will find tachycardia, most commonly low CVP, low urine output, and dropping hemoglobin in the arterial blood gases. But sometimes, if a bleeding patient, if the collection is only in the pericardium and it is cardiac tamponade, then there will be tachycardia, hypotension, but the CVP will be inappropriately high, something like 14 or 16, and that should lead to and this condition also will be associated with the low urine output. But the combination of these parameters should give an idea that possibility of a cardiac tamponade is there, and an urgent echocardiogram should show the collection around the heart, and so the patient may require a re-exploration. Equally, in conditions where patient is bleeding, it is important to know why the patient is bleeding, whether the bleeding could be medical or surgical. So first rule out the medical bleeding before taking the patient to re-exploration. So check ACT, which can be done bedside. Send immediate samples for APTT, PT, and a complete blood picture, which will give you an idea of platelet count, which will also give whether there is residual heparin effect, and also if the patient's liver function was deranged preoperatively, then the PT-INR will be delayed. In those situations, first treat the patient with FFP, platelets, or whatever is appropriate for that condition, and then only resort to re-exploration. And these FFP platelets also will add volume to the patient, so that also will allow to improve the urine output. At the same time, whenever the hemoglobin levels is less than 8, patient would need a blood transfusion. A word of caution with blood transfusion is that Always try and use fresh blood, because old blood tends to have high potassium levels because of breakdown on RBCs. And fresh blood that is been adequately rewarmed is important. And if the patient urine output has completely tailed off, and if you have a suspicion of acute kidney injury and renal insufficiency, in those situations consult someone senior before you commence blood transfusion, because that can lead to sudden increase in potassium levels and can sometimes cause cardiac arrest. So in those situations, please do consult senior before resorting to blood transfusion. But otherwise, if a patient is bleeding, if he is hypotensive, if someone's hemoglobin is around 8 and if they require volume, then instead of giving them gelofusine or any other crystalloid or colloid, it is better to replace it with blood, because when the hemoglobin is 8 and you give crystalloid or colloid, then the blood will get further diluted and the hemoglobin will become less. So rather than that, you would rather give a unit of blood which will bring the hemoglobin up to 9 or 10. And then if the patient is still hypovolemic, in the next phase you can give a colloid or a crystalloid as treatment for hypovolemia. So when patient bleeds, there is only one thing that can replace blood is another blood. So equally, make sure that the patient is not having any medical causes. Now if all the medical parameters like the APTT, PT, INR and ACT are within normal range, and they cannot explain the amount of bleeding that the patient is having, in those situations probably he is a candidate for re-exploration. So immediately inform your senior and suggest to them that possibly this patient needs re-exploration. So again, going back to the urine output point, the whole idea of measuring urine output is to measure that the kidneys are getting adequately perfused. So hypovolemia happens to be the first cause. Second cause is low cardiac output. Low cardiac output for various reasons. Again, hypovolemia happens to be one of the causes, but low pump power. So if the heart pump is not pumping properly, then there is hypoperfusion, and the hypoperfusion manifests when it happens to the kidneys in terms of low urine output. So if that is the situation, then you will see other parameters that are increased, like metabolic acidosis, as has been discussed earlier. If the flow is slow, then there is more of anaerobic metabolism that can lead to lactate buildup and acidosis. So if someone's urine output is tailing off, and you look at the balance sheet, if the balance is equal balance, or if the balance is on the positive side, that means they have been adequately filled, their volume status is adequate, CVP looks adequate, and if the urine output is low associated with acidosis, the possibility could be that the patient is having a low cardiac output because of a cardiogenic shock. In those situations, as a first step, you can increase the inotropes by 2 or 3 ml per hour, and then get an immediate echocardiogram, and then check whether the operation that has been done is working properly or not. Repeat an ECG. Make sure that the patient is not having a perioperative MI, which could also contribute to acidosis and low cardiac output, and then can lead to problems. So try and identify if this low cardiac output is a new onset one, or if the patient's ejection fraction was poor preoperatively and now it continues to be poor and is unable to cope with the post-operative increased demand of the patient. In such situations, maybe the patient will need a balloon pump. So various situations will require various treatments, but the most important thing that is expected of you as a junior on the floor or as a person on the floor close to the patient is identifying what is causing the problem, or at least identifying that the patient has got a problem and informing your seniors as soon as possible, and then they will take whatever steps that are needed, because I don't expect you to treat every condition, but it is important for you to pick it up. So if the urine output is tailing off, say from 100 it has come to 90, it has come to 70 this hour, then there is a possibility of a trend that is developing, and you could identify and prevent that trend earlier on so that the patient's condition does not deteriorate any further. So low urine output or measuring urine output is an important parameter. Sometimes urine output can be improved just by increasing the inotropes, or sometimes adding vasoconstrictors. The other reason that urine output, a pseudo hypovolemia can happen in patients who are vasodilated. Normally, patients are cooled down to reduce their metabolic rate during operations that are done on bypass machine, or even intraoperatively, because they remain in a AC air conditioned environment with low temperatures, and their whole body is exposed to the low temperatures. Even during patients when they undergo beating heart surgery, their body temperatures tend to come down from 37 to 36 and sometimes to 35 degrees centigrade. And when they come back to the ICU, they are actively rewarmed, either with warmers or their own body mechanisms will start warming them up. And when this warming happens, there is a vasodilatation. And when vasodilatation happens, it is like having a jar full of water filled up to the brim, and if you move the walls away, then the water level automatically comes down. So it is a pseudo hypovolemia. So when vasodilatation happens, the blood pressure can come down, again tachycardia can present, low urine output can be a possibility. Now, how to identify vasodilatation? Patients' extremes will be warm, or sometimes they can be hot, and you can see sometimes the heart literally pounding, and you can see the cardiac output being on the higher side, because when the heart is pounding, that means it is beating away and there is no problem with the cardiac output. And where in institutions where they have abilities to measure systemic vascular resistance, what is called as a SVR, or systemic vascular resistance, this can be measured using a Swan-Ganz catheter or peripherally through PICO monitors. Those pick up a reduction in the systemic vascular resistance. If there is a reduction in the systemic vascular resistance, that is an objective way of measuring and saying that the patient is vasodilated. Sometimes because of inflammatory response secondary to the pump, use of heart-lung machine, which is called as a post-pump syndrome. In those situations also, because of all the inflammatory markers that are released, patient suddenly develops vasodilatation. In all these situations, the treatment remains vasoconstriction, or to a certain extent filling the patient. You can give volume correction, but at the same time keeping an eye on their cardiac output and not to fill them too much. So it's a balanced vasoconstriction plus correction of hypovolemia that will bring patients out of the situation. And many a times this vasodilatory process will stop. It extends from around 2 to 4 hours. It will start around 2 to 4 hours after the patient returns from theatre, and continues up to 8 to 12 hours after surgery. And so during this period, if you support them with adequate vasoconstriction and volume correction, then automatically the patient will start correcting themselves later on. So physiology will take over. So during this period, it is important to identify the cause that is causing the pseudo hypovolemia and then treating it appropriately. Because in patients who have low ejection fraction, that is their heart pump is weak, and they are in vasodilatory state, the challenge is even more, because you don't want to vasoconstrict them more, because if you vasoconstrict, then you are increasing the workload on the heart. The load against which the heart has to pump, you are increasing it. So you don't want to do that. At the same time, you don't want to fill them with too much of fluid, because that can lead to pulmonary edema. So a cautious approach, and whenever you intervene, checking the consequences of your intervention in the next 10-15 minutes or in the next hour, and then making sure and making adequate corrections, further corrections to ensure patient will not deteriorate any further is very important in such sick patients. And if you are not confident, again and again I repeat this, ask for help. And it does not do any harm asking for help, it in fact helps the patient. So measuring urine output is a very sensitive index. Don't ruin it by just giving furosemide, because that is a common thing. When a sister calls in the middle of the night, urine output has tailed off, in the sleepy state that you are just asked her to give 10 milligrams or 20 milligrams of furosemide. What furosemide does is in the immediate 1 hour, the urine output increases, because it's an artificial increase in the urine output. What has not been done is a correction to the pathophysiology that is causing the low urine output. So again, like in the instance of correction of blood sugars or correction of other parameters, you are losing valuable time without correcting the actual pathophysiology, and by just giving furosemide. Furosemide should only be given after you completely understand the pathophysiology and feel that giving furosemide will offload the patient a little bit and may help his overall condition in his recovery, then only resort to give furosemide. Otherwise, it is always better to correct physiology and get the improve the urine output physiologically rather than through pharmacology. Thank you.